Hi, I'm Ryan Davis,
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
and this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
Hey, Kiernan.
Hi, Ryan. How are you?
I'm good. It's we're recording this the morning after the USA went down to Belgium last night in the World Cup, and when this comes out, we'll be entering the final week of the World Cup. We'll be in the finals games, heading to the big one. You get tickets to the final show
No,
down there?
I don't have tickets to anything. I've
No?
mostly anytime I've been watching, it's just been out like in a bar, which has been limited. But I do enjoy.
Yeah.
I read a lot about it in the New York Times.
That's really.
I know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, tonight we've got the Colombia Switzerland game, so that'll be a big deal here. And I even got a jersey.
No, you're sporting a sports jersey?
I have a Colombia national team jersey.
Oh golly!
And you know what's especially
that stupid Panama hat. This is just brutal.
The cool thing about the jersey is it has yellow butterflies on it, and this is a reference to 100 Years of Solitude by the great Marquez, the Colombian
interesting.
novelist.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's both I can say, I'm not wearing it for the sports value. I'm wearing it for the
that's beautiful
literary
actually.
value. Yeah.
And do you like to carry around a big tome of his poetry while wearing it? You could bring one to a game.
It would not be out of place. No, I'm actually.
You could sit on it. It'll prop you up.
Yeah. I just got in the mail a massive Brazil 1-volume history that I'm cracking into.
I have to admit that so I saw you post that to Instagram. That looked like one of those books that I would like buy before I went to Brazil, and then I'd get 100 pages in and be like, oof, this is denser than I had anticipated.
Yeah, it's not it's thankfully I just read like a Colombian history book that's basically like a textbook. So this is written for, it's a more general audience. So it's not, I think it's going to be, it's called Brazil, a biography. And the idea is they're just going to cover a bunch of different things that happened in Brazil from like a narrative nonfiction perspective. So hopefully it'll be, fun.
That sounds okay. I have a guidebook series I like that fulfills this sort of, if you're not looking for the like 800-page history insanely in depth and narrative, but you want something more along the lines of kind of like a textbook, like a brief textbook to read you up on the major history. I've always liked the insight guides. That's been my go-to for countries I haven't been to, the insight guides.
The insight guides. Well, that's a lot of book recommendations for the top of the show.
And that's last stop sort of stuff. Well, I feel like we covered off the Judy alert. Well, you're clearly still in Colombia.
Have you gotten your tickets for the Obama Center?
It's okay. So, end of the summer, we're taking the kids off to Chicago. And this was because we had a bunch of JetBlue points that were about to expire. So we had to use them up. And I am hugely disappointed to say it's sold out. I didn't even think about these selling out. Would you have thought of that? I mean, I know it's new, and I guess he's beloved, but I just kind of thought, well, it's a presidential center. I mean, it's not like a hit Broadway show.
Yeah. So are you going to like email your congressperson or something?
That's a good idea.
That's how I got in. That's how I got into the African American History Museum when it first opened.
Oh, interesting. I have a couple of folks who are connected to the original campaigns who I think might be able to help us and try to score 4 tickets. If not, I was thinking maybe I try to work the out of office angle.
Wow.
I mean, there is some perks that come with being travel influencers.
Are you watching the new Obama Larry David show?
I have not watched it. Have you?
I've watched it. Yeah,
it seems great. I think I'd enjoy it. I saw some clips.
You got to get through. The first episode is rough. The second episode has some really good moments. It's it's very specific. I mean, it's made for it's like he just got his friends together to it's got a
it's shaggy. It's a bit
shaggy quality. Sure. Yeah. But
I mean, it
funny.
does seem it seems like at this point Larry David is just doing like a caricature of Larry David.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's doing whatever he wants. He's done his he's got his major achievement.
Yeah, I would agree. He and Obama, I would say, they've both done fairly well.
I don't think we're
So
at that point yet. When
so
we get to
we're
episode 250, I think it's like, all right, we've hit our achievement.
oh, is that when it happens? No, so right now I'm on the search for Obama Center ticks. Certainly, if anybody out there in the listening audience has any leads, please reach out of office pod@gmail.com. I'd super appreciate it. We're going at the end of August, and we are just 2 days away, or no, 1 day away today. They're releasing new tickets tomorrow, but it appears that it will be for only after our trip. I believe their tickets are going to be from September on, and we're going at the end of August.
Gosh, so you gotta work these connects. So
I know.
yeah.
Well, I hope so. Well, Ryan, today you got me all down thinking about this stuff that I can't do. But I came in hot and up because we've got another national park centric episode. We're going to be talking about. I was curious if you even knew this phrase. Do you know about parkitecture?
Well, the second I saw the word, I knew what it meant, but I don't know that I've seen it out in the. Is it a real word or is it just a cute podcast word?
I mean, no, it is a real word. It's not. I mean, obviously, it's
Can I play it in Scrabble? Is the question.
Ooh, I don't know what rules you abide by for that, but surely you can check for me and let us know. Is there a way that you could quickly check? I am curious on that.
I just checked the Scrabble word finder, and it said that it's not playable.
Oh gosh, I'm surprised. Okay, well, I guess it's.
But apparently, there's a Scrabble National Parks edition. So look that up.
Surely you'd be able. How does Scrabble have special editions?
Maybe it doesn't. It might be an AI hallucination. So.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that does happen. Well, yeah, parkitecture, as the name implies, is the specific style of architecture that is featured in national parks all across America. It's a distinct style that I absolutely love. So I can't wait to talk through the history and give you kind of a new view to take when you're visiting America's national parks this summer.
All right. Well, I'm excited. I love outdoor architecture, parkitecture. So I think we should jump in.
I think you mean it's time to take off. I don't think this area is called the jump in.
I think it's tell the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
Jump in, cabin crew. All right, Ryan. Well, a good place to start here is for me to ask you, have you ever stayed in a national park lodge?
No, I never have. I've seen them. I know you are a big fan of the national park lodge, but I've never stayed in one. I always imagine it's sort of the Shining-esque, in my mind.
Well, they're an iconic style, and they have a mix of different influences, which we'll talk about. But when you see one, you definitely know it. And my very first exposure to them was when I went to Glacier National Park, and I stayed in a place called the Glacier Park Lodge. And this was one of the historic lodges that was built actually not by the Park Service, but by the Great Northern Railway. And this was the way that they were trying to draw people to come on the railroad and to come out west to explore the great natural wonders out there. And so that is one of the initial blueprints that was created out in creating this architecture for the national parks, was the railways actually trying to drive up business. If you were building the railroad, you needed something to end at to draw people out from the east to the west.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
And the style itself, I think it'll sound familiar to you, even from just visiting national parks or seeing some of the some imagery of it, which is it usually incorporates a very sort of rustic style. And in fact, within architecture circles, as you said, parkitecture is kind of a silly, like, colloquial name, but it is actually called National Park Service rustic style, and it's kind of a design philosophy that architects and designers take on when they're thinking about lots of elements that happen in a national park. And when you think of what it means to actually function in a national park, there's not just the lodges, there's small shelters, there's like bus stops, there's tons of signage, including the kind of iconic brown and yellow signs that greet you when you've reached a national park. You know, many times I always think like you might be driving for 3-4 hours in the wilderness to get to these great places. And I always think that sign is such like it's like a hug letting you know you're like in this very special place. And I always look forward to seeing those iconic signs. There's even right down to picnic tables. Each of these pieces, and especially in the early 20th century, was really thought through and incorporated this one harmonious rustic style. And I think once we talk about what to look for today, you're really going to see a lot of this coming when you visit the national parks.
I love this. Yeah, I'm excited to learn with you, Kiernan.
So let's talk about some of the defining traits. I'm just curious, you know, since you're not as conversant in and haven't spent as much time, what do you think of when you think of these great national park lodges?
I don't know. I would think like Teddy Roosevelt kind of rustic style, you know, probably. I can't even picture any of them in my head. I mean, I think my Shining references was way off.
It is. You're right that the Shining. So I've actually stayed at that Shining hotel in Estes Park, and that's not exactly what we're talking about. That's
is that really in a park?
No, it's near Rocky Mountain National Park. So it's just outside.
Cool.
It's in the entrance city to Rocky Mountain National Park.
Oh, very cool.
So most people would think of something like a log cabin style. So kind of, you know, not very finished off logs, stone fireplaces, and having a little bit of a, it's not exactly ramshackle, but like a undesigned look. It's not like a super modern. There aren't really sharp edges or parallel bars. Everything is just. It looks kind of rough and ready, is how I would describe it.
All right, so, Teddy Roosevelt, rough and ready.
You're taking that from the Rough Riders, yeah. And that sort of like asymmetry and irregularity is a big part of this. So if you were to be looking, for example, at a railing or a post that's around a porch at one of these great lodges, oftentimes they are, you know, slightly off, or maybe the railings have little nubs where you can see the imperfections that came from the original logs. And that is meant to signal this is made from native local materials, and it's supposed to be very harmonious with the nature around it. And I would contrast that with, you do see a lot of modern architecture where they come in and they go into a big, beautiful area, and then they put kind of stark glass, right angles, squares, rectangles. They look kind of like modern museums plopped in a bucolic landscape. The national park architecture, the Parkitecture, is really supposed to celebrate and be one with the nature.
Right. That totally makes sense. I like that harmonious take.
And I personally, one of the things that really sticks in my mind is at that Glacier Park Lodge, when you go in, it's 4 stories high, and they had these enormous pillars. They were 4 feet across, and they were what looked like unfinished logs that had been chopped down and then amazingly propped up to hold up the roof. And you had this just soaring view up to the ceiling. And that these sort of exaggerated, oversized structural elements, especially when it comes to giant stone fireplaces built from native boulders, or exposed beams that really look like they just had the bark stripped off. This is a big part of sort of the grandeur of these lodges. It really makes you feel like you're entering someplace special, but yet it maintains that, you know, that kind of backwoods element that you pride yourself on as a Western American.
That sounds like a really good fit for these parks.
Now, it's interesting too that you will often notice that beyond just those big architectural elements, the furniture itself picks up on that style too. Like it can look like it's made from twigs and rocks and stones that have just been found locally. I know there's a great this example actually is not within a national park, but there's a wonderful lodge called Timberline Lodge. Timberline Lodge. It was built in 1938, and it's on Mount Hood, Oregon. Interesting fact about it is most years you can ski year round there. Catherine and I visited in June, and it was skiing weather. We had a snowstorm while we were there. And it has the big trademark of Timberline Lodge is that it has this enormous fireplace, chimney that has multiple fireplaces that come around it. So it's like a lobby that's a circle, and the chimney rises straight from the middle of that circle. And then you can sit in this rustic furniture next to these open fireplaces. And to me, a night by the oversized fireplace with a roaring fire, that is perfect Parkitecture.
Yeah, I love that vibe. That sounds great. And skiing in June is unimaginable to me.
I one thing that I have found a little frustrating is that, again, a lot of this architecture was built in the early 20th century. So it's got to be kept up. It's showing its age, keeping things a century old, livable and functional is many people's full-time jobs. And I have noticed some like modern conveniences and just trends creeping in. And for me, one of those, just to compare it to the Timberline Lodge one, was it was like a knife in my heart when I visited Crater Lake Lodge in Oregon. This lodge was built originally in 1915, has many of these stylistic elements, and it benefits too from having just a gorgeous view back over Crater Lake itself, this icy blue, beautiful lake. And unfortunately, they took the grand, oversized fireplace and they have converted it into a gas fireplace, which I am completely against. I feel that having wood fires is the only appropriate. I know it's harder. I know it's more work. That it's a little more dangerous. But to me, wood fires are an essential element.
Yeah, I can see that. There's probably also a environmental argument against wood fires, but yeah, I mean that's what you want when you're sitting in that kind of cabin.
And Ryan, speaking of the furniture, there's one piece that I really want to call out, which is if you ever make it to the Paradise Inn, which is in Mount Rainier National Park, it's right at the top of a mountain there. There, they've taken this to the extreme, where there is actually a historic piano. I will link to it in the show notes, and I'll also put up a. I'll put up a picture on the Instagram, which is at OOO podcast. It is a piano that is made in this rustic style, right down to each of the corners has a big unfinished log that comes to this like very threatening looking point at the top. And these were designed, this decorative woodwork was designed by a German carpenter. It looks to me like it was forged in the Black Forest for sure. His name was Han Frauke. Fraunke. And he also designed a beautiful 14-foot grandfather clock that is also in that lodge. And Ryan, I mean, talk about God. This is like just a Kiernan fest today. That piano in Paradise Inn it was played by Harry S. Truman when he visited the lodge.
Wow, Truman played piano. That's cool.
He entertained. It was a 1945. The times were feeling good in 1945, and he tickled those ivories.
Yeah, well, that would have been something to see.
So the other, for those who are like deeply into architecture, I do just want to call out some of the different influences that came in to inform Parkitecture. A few years ago, we did an episode that I'll link to here that was all about visiting the great camps of the Adirondacks. And so this, of course, is upstate New York kind of architecture. And these camps were wealthy individuals, usually from New York City, trying to create their country abode. And this style of the peeled logs, the stone chimneys, using bark, these were sort of pioneered within the Adirondacks Great Camps, and many of them have been turned into hotels, or like conference areas that you can book today. I've gone to a couple of them, and they definitely have that national park feel, sometimes at a slightly less grand scale than some of those big Western ones that I was talking about. And many of those came about in the 1870s to the 1890s. So this was just when national parks were starting to come to be. Yosemite, Yellowstone, their designers were taking the influence from these great camps in the East and bringing it west.
That's cool. I like that.
Similarly, a lot of these great lodges, and I'm going to, end by listing some of the really spectacular ones to seek out. Many of them are in areas that get a lot of snow. They're high up in mountains. They have really tough winters. And so you will also see some elements of what you would almost consider Swiss chalet style architecture, with those really steep gables, deep eaves. And that is, that kind of alpine look is because you don't want the snow to be stacking up all winter long. And in fact, there was a great profile a few years ago in a national park magazine that was all about these many of these lodges that are in like the deep country where they're going to get a ton of snow. Many of them do not take guests over the winter. Old Faithful Inn, by the way, is not one of those. That's a great one. And I've heard that it's wonderful to visit during the winter. I haven't done that, but it's on the bucket list. But that means that there are usually just one little family who stays behind and takes care of these giant, beautiful hotels throughout the winter to be sure the pipes don't freeze, to make sure the snow is falling off these alpine roofs. I'm going to see if I can dig up that profile of somebody who actually does this and talks about what it's like to see through 4 months, buried in snow, just you in the hotel.
That would be very cool. Get some real reading done.
Yeah, that's true. I also think a lot of this develops out of that sort of arts and crafts movement. The use of that arts and crafts movement really elevated. It wanted you to see the materials that they were working with, like the visible construction, the wood itself, and that is, of course, brought in a huge part of the movement here. I would say that sort of frontier log cabin look. So that's, where we talk, every president running for office in the 19th century wanted to claim they were born in a log cabin. And there is something about that that's just built into the American character. It says that we can go out and build our own buildings from our natural materials and the beauty and wealth of the land. And that's definitely part of this tradition. And then finally, those great railroad hotels. So many of them aren't tied to national parks, or they're just the entrance into national parks. But there were railroads like the Northern Pacific, the Great Northern, the Santa Fe railroads that drove tourism by investing in creating these destinations. And then they would run tours from those hotels, and people would go for a week or 2 weeks. And that really set the template for when the National Park Service really came up and running. And, a lot of this work, as you would guess, was really kicked into high gear under FDR's CCC program, and even the WPPA, which was putting artists to work. They were shipped out to these parks to build, the thousands and thousands of structures that I was describing. And this Parkitecture was the template. And in fact, Ryan, one of the things that I learned about in putting this episode together was that there is actually an amazing template book. It's a book called Park and Recreation Structures. Park and Recreation Structures, and it was published in 1938 by the Department of the Interior and the National Park, primarily overseen by this man named Albert Good. And what's really cool about it is that it takes all of these elements right down to the picnic tables, and it shows them. It gives the blueprints, it gives the designs, and it describes the philosophy behind them, like I'm doing right now. And it's a 3-volume set that incorporates, it's broken down into like your basic facilities, your cultural and recreational facilities, and then overnight and lodging. And it in the end, it's about 600 pages of material, and it's beautifully illustrated. So what I'm going to do is, you really can't. When I read about this, I was like, I got to get one of these. Like, I got to get a set. I'm not getting a set because they run about $500. They're like the original set is greatly sought after. But in the beautiful world that we live in, you can actually see it online for free, and you can explore every page of it. It's all been scanned. And so I will put a link in the show notes to, I believe it's the Internet Archive that has it. And really do take the time to explore it. I'll throw some of those up on the Instagram as well, because just super fun to see the care that is taken with every single one of these elements.
Yeah, I'm excited for this Instagram post. It's going to be a lot of good Parkitecture.
So the final thing I want to do, Ryan, is just if this has sort of gotten you interested, many of these lodges do book 9 months, a year out, especially if you're looking to go during summertime. Shoulder seasons are a little easier. And so I thought I'd just run through some of the best examples of Parkitecture. And I would also give this recommendation that even if you can't book yourself into one of these lodges because you're planning your trip late, that's something that I've suffered from in the past. I remember particularly I went to Bryce Canyon, and Bryce Canyon Lodge was all booked up, much to my disappointment. But what I did was I stayed at a hotel just outside. It was like a 10-minute drive to the lodge. And then my friend and I, who we were visiting, we would have our meals in the lodge. We would hang out in the lobby after the meals, get a beer, hang out by the fireplace. And then we would drive 10 minutes to our hotel down the street. So if you enjoy this type of Parkitecture, even if you can't get to the lodge, but you want to like sit and enjoy the ambiance, feel free to stop in. They still want your tourist dollars inside, especially with the restaurants.
Yeah,
So,
I mean that's a good tip for any hotel you want to see, but for whatever reason you can't get in there.
So probably the most classic, the most famous is the Old Faithful Inn, which I mentioned at Yellowstone, built in 1904. This is like the archetype. If you're looking for the massive lobby like the one I described in Glacier National Park, Old Faithful Inn is it. And at Yosemite, built in 1927, the Awani, which is similar. It's but one little factoid to give you about these is they've actually used concrete and disguised it as timber and stone. So it gives you the feel that it's wood, but it's a little more safe for fires. The Grand Canyon Lodge, which is on the North Rim, I mentioned fires. This obviously, when you're building with giant logs, is a real danger. And this Grand Canyon Lodge has, in fact, burned down and been rebuilt. The Paradise Inn at Mount Rainier, which I was talking about with the piano. I can't go into it now because we don't have time, but it also has a very interesting set of lampshades that we should focus on at some point, but I can't tell you the full story here, but a very interesting, you could take a little lampshade tour, which I've done. The Many Glacier Hotel and Glacier Park Lodge at Glacier National Park. Many Glacier fills up first, I'll say, and Glacier Park Lodge is a little more rustic, but still a wonderful stay. Crater Lake Lodge in Oregon. 2 in Utah, the Bryce Canyon Lodge and the Zion Lodge. Zion Lodge, a little more humble than some of these others, but still captures those main elements. And then the final one within a national park I'll mention is El Tovar Hotel, which is in the Grand Canyon. This really has that. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it still has that kind of Nordic style, that sort of Swiss chalet, Norwegian country home kind of style. And then the final one I want to shout out is that Timberline Lodge that I recommend. There are also two St. Bernards that live there, or at least they were there when I was there. And that gives you just another great reason to go. It also has a great exhibit about the WPA and how this was a project of that Depression era government program and the whole history of the architecture itself, plus that mighty, mighty chimney.
I love this. You've made me want to go stay in a national park lodge, and hopefully it won't burn down, and it wouldn't be my last stop, Kiernan. I think it is time for the last stop.
The last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan, we're here in the last stop. This is the last segment of the show, the final segment of the show. That's why it's called the last stop. It's logical. And it's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. It's popularly known as the people segment. You see that out in t-shirts. People's got the tattoos, the people segment. And that's because it is the segment where we come together as a community. We share. I wouldn't say it quite tips into socialism, but it definitely has that kind of vibe. And that's because
socialism?
Yeah.
Maybe populism, maybe.
No, populism is the ugly side of socialism. No. This is where we bring together shared resources for everybody's benefit. That's particularly you and I do, because we each bring one thing. It could be anything. It could be a memory. It could be a tip. It could be an article, or even a picture or a piece of art. But it must check one box. It has to inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workaday week. So, Ryan, I'm going to ask you, as I ask you every episode, do you have a last stop this week?
I do, Kiernan. I came across a study on Twitter this week from the Journal of Happiness Studies about, looking at vacations and happiness, and whether or not you should take a long vacation or multiple short vacations a year to sort of maximize your happiness. And this was a study in Europe. So the vacations ranged from 15 to 20 to 34 days. So it's a different kind of vacation than we're used to, averaging 23 days. And they measured their sleep quality, their relaxation, their pleasure, all this stuff. And they basically found that your vacation happiness peaks on day 8. So if you're taking a vacation that's shorter, you might not even hit that peak happiness. And if you're taking a really long vacation, you can actually get over that peak happiness where the vacation itself starts to become a chore. And they say that the ones that lead to the most, the longest recovery, the post happiness after the vacation, are the ones that are less productive, but allow lots of time for relaxing, doing nothing, and just kind of like hanging out. So, sometimes I feel like as Americans, when we travel, we're like, okay, we have a 10-hour day here and an 8.5-hour scheduled day here, just more time to get up and have a coffee at the coffee shop or to stroll in the park, can lead to kind of enjoying your vacation more and not having to try to pack in every single thing to see. So I know that I'm doing my planning for Brazil right now, and boy, we have some packed days, but we also have some days that are less packed. So it's definitely keeping that in mind. But yeah, I'll link to the study. Sort of interesting, and it inspires you to take multiple shorter vacations throughout the year.
I mean, that's just by dint of the American style of working, that seems much more feasible anyhow.
Yeah, definitely. A 34-day vacation. Can you imagine?
I mean, now that you're saying
that's a sabbatical.
Some of my European friends, they do seem to just go like the Instagrams. It's like 4 weeks of foreign content. I'm like, what is going on? Where are you? And you're getting paid for all this?
Yeah, these folks coming on their vacations to the World Cup. I'm like, do they have unlimited vacation time? Really literal here in Europe?
Yeah,
huh?
Good point. I mean, I think for the World Cup especially, there's a lot of understanding.
Yeah, exactly. What did you bring a last stop this week, Kiernan?
Yes, this is a piece of content that I saw online that it was one of my favorite things that I saw in celebration of the 250th anniversary, which we just passed of the country, or of our Declaration of Independence, I should say. And it's by Conor Knighton, our old friend Conor Knighton, who's been on the show a bunch. He is the author of Leave Only Footprints. It's sort of a travelogue of him traveling to every single U.S. national park, and he is also a CBS News correspondent, and he's kind of on the nature park beat a lot of the time. And one thing that he did, he has quite a nice voice, and when he was visiting each of the national parks, he made sure to record himself singing "America the Beautiful" at each park, and then he cut together him singing it. You get about 3 words in each park, and he looks different, and he's wearing different gear, and the landscape is different, and his hair looks different. He even does a special one where he's scuba diving underwater, but he's holding signs with the lyrics that fit into that portion of the song. So it's very charming. It's very quick, highly shareable, and it made me miss Conor.
Yeah, that's gonna have to put that in the show notes there.
You know what I'll do? I'll actually clip in a little of the audio here. I think people would enjoy it, and yeah, I'll put it in the show notes as well, so you can actually see the visuals, which are a big part of it.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of rain, woo! For purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America.
All right. Well, hope Conor's having a good summer. And
okay.
And until next time, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken.
There is a Scrabble National Park Edition. There's also a Monopoly National Park Edition, Kiernan. So I think Charlie should be getting some board games for his birthday or something here soon.
That'll be good. Since we can't get into the presidential center, we'll just sit around playing National Park Scrabble.